Hi guys, thanks very much for joining me. Today I just want to look at study skills. It's something that perhaps we don't cover enough in class, if at all. Certainly with my lessons, we're very much into starting the topic, we start the curriculum, and we move often very quickly. And there's almost a presumption as a teacher that you know how to take notes and you know what to do. And maybe that's a failing on our part. Maybe we need to be looking at it slightly differently. And so today, what I want to do is I want to look at some study skills, and I want to look at using a technique when we're reading and we're taking notes of using something called SQ3R. So let's go through what it means. And the first one is skim. Then we're going to be talking about questioning. Then we're going to read. We're going to recall. And then finally, we're going to review. So we're going to look at SQ3R today. I'm going to go into it in a lot more detail as how you can apply that in your own learning now, particularly if you're learning away from school at the moment, and for your note taking and learning beyond school as well, because this is useful for GCSE, it's useful for A level, and it's useful for beyond then. So let's have a look at this first one. We're going to look at skim. Now this is your opportunity to get an overview of the material. This is the first time you're going to be looking at it. And what you're going to need to do as soon as you get the material in front of you, now this can be on a computer screen, it can be from the internet, it can be a book, it can be a newspaper article. I'm going to treat this as any piece of text. And what you want to be doing is looking for the headings and subheadings. This is going to give you an indication of what the author is going to be covering in that text to get an idea of what the content is going to be. Also, read that first paragraph. First paragraph is very much like an introduction to an essay. It's going to tell you what the main article is about. So the author is going to set the ground, so to speak. And that first paragraph really allows you to understand the wider content of the article. Have a look for any charts, any pictures. This gives you another idea of what the author feels is going to be important in this piece of work. So if there are charts, clearly the article is going to be talking about something involving these charts. And if there are pictures, this article is going to be involving more information around those pictures. It's a really good way for you to get an idea of what the article will be containing. And then finally, look at that last paragraph or any final points in the article. The same way as the first paragraph set the ground and said what I'm going to be covering, that final paragraph is a really good recap and certainly will put across a point of view. So that's a good thing that you need to be doing. So we need to be just getting that first paragraph, looking for some charts and pictures, and then reading that last paragraph. So next we need to move on to questions, and this is the Q of SQ3R. And we need to look at, why is this text important? Why have I found it myself? Why have I been given it? So I need to understand that. So I might have to write that down. Why is this text important? What's the author trying to say? Now you're going to get a real good idea from that in that first paragraph. And write down, what do you think the author is trying to say here? What information are you trying to find? Now this is really important. You need to write down the key questions. What information are you trying to find out of this article? So make sure you write these questions down. And what's interesting and unusual about this article? Why have you been given it? Why have you been drawn towards it? Write that down. And then finally, always have what I describe as the reporter questions in the back of your mind. And now these reporter questions, the reporter questions are who, what, where, why, when, how. Always have those at the back of your mind. Some people describe it as 5WH. Another way to describe it, the reporter questions. So have those in your mind when you are setting your questions out and we're getting ready to move on to the next stage. So having completed questions, we now need to start moving on. We're going to read the article. Now don't forget, as you're reading this article, you're going to be trying to answer the questions that you've written down. If you find a difficult piece of text, if you find something that you're not too sure about, slow down, read it again. That happens to me now. If I'm reading an academic piece of text or something I'm not sure on, I'll go back a couple of pages and read it again. And that very act of reading it again, quite often it allows it to make more sense with me. Check any definitions and check for understanding. I always think it's a really good idea to have a dictionary to hand, and again, it's something I still do. Just have a dictionary, so if you're not too sure of a word, double check its meaning, so then you're more confident in using it later on. One thing you shouldn't be doing at this point, you're not writing any notes yet. All you are now doing is reading the article. You've got the questions in your mind, you understand what you're looking for, but all you are focusing on is reading. Because you can't do two things at once. You can't read and write at the same time and do them both well. So we're just going to focus on the reading, and we're going to do that well. Once we've completed that reading, that's the first R of the 3 R's, we're going to look at recall. Now, starting the recall, you need to pause. Go back to questions that you wrote at the start. Have another look at them. Once you've done that, try to answer the questions out loud. Verbalize your answer. Talk through the answer. So you're confident in what you're speaking about. You're confident in that subject matter. Once you've done that, now's the time to start writing down. So this is the only time now we're actually going to start writing our notes. We're going to write down the answers to our questions, but in our own words. The very fact of using your words means that you're looking for the meaning of the article. It really does mean that it's going to cement it in your own knowledge, in your own mind. Then finally, we're going to review. So you need to cover your notes up now, and you're going to try and remember what you have written. If you get stuck, if you can't remember what you've written, then go back, check your notes again. Only when you're confident in answering the questions you set yourself at the beginning of this exercise can you really say, I've read the article and completed it. You've got to be at that point. So there we are, SQ3R, a method for reading an article and to help structure your note taking afterwards. I've given you a quick guide at the end. Press pause, print this off. If you're in one of my classes, I will send you this separately so you can print it off. But it's a really useful thing to keep handy to remind you now, when you have an article to read, this is what you could be putting in place. SQ3R. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.